So today I get to sit down and have a conversation with Tina Schaaf, who is on our team at OneAccord. Tina has 20 plus years in executive search. You're a former CEO, former COO. So let's just launch right in as an executive headhunter. Right? You like that term, headhunter.
Yeah, definitely. I own it.
Don't call you a recruiter. As an executive headhunter, yeah, with extensive experience in operations and at the C-level, how do you ensure personality alignment between your candidates and your clients?
That's a great question. So I'm going to be honest and say that took some years to really figure that out because we're human beings and every human being is very dynamic. And so today what you will learn is that I use both what's called the Core Values Index, CVI, as part of the process to really understand the core DNA of a human being. I usually have a good sense of what that is in my interview process and getting to know them. And this is both, by the way, on the company side as well as the individual side. I will use it for both. However, what's interesting is that you always learn something new because the CVI is taken from their perspective and how they view themselves. So definitely that is a baseline, I would say, that I use for assessing personalities and alignment. But the other thing is, the most important thing is getting to know these human beings. Yeah. So I take extensive time in getting to know the key individuals within the corporations that I work with. And then I take extensive time with the candidates themselves and learning what is most important to them.
And how does that alignment contribute to the overall success of the organization?
Alignment is the word. And because a person could have, skill sets that are completely appropriate for an opportunity. However, if there's not alignment, then you do not have anything. And so therefore, alignment, how I determine that is like I said, getting to what is most important to each individual, and then what are the success factors that they're both looking for? What does the individual want to do with their career and where are they going? What are they hoping to achieve? And what is the company trying to do? What are they hoping to achieve? What are the milestones that they haven't yet achieved that this person could potentially achieve for and with them?
All right, so I know that you have a standard that you've set for yourself in your industry. What is that standard and how is it different from other search professionals?
Well, one of the standards that I've definitely set is I do believe in proven experience. And I think that's really important. There's a lot of components out there that, people just feel like, well, they should be able to do it, or they could be able to do it, or they want to. And my clients are expecting something better. And so that's one of the things that I have to deliver is proven experience. The other thing is to be able to determine exactness to what is expected on both sides and to be able to figure out, what that is. And with that, it takes a process. So I have a very specific process that I stick to pretty religiously because I found that it begets high success. And it's both on the candidate side, a very specific process, as well as on the company side. Two different processes, similar aspects, but something that I stick to and adhere to, like I said, pretty much religiously.
Given that you have your process, can you tell us of a time that you dealt with a particularly challenging executive or client? You're already smiling.
Yeah.
And how were you able to successfully facilitate and navigate the complex organizational dynamics?
Yeah. So back to this process. It is a process that I created. And so it's not standard in the marketplace. It's not common practice. And so there's a perception when a client engages me. Actually, there's a perception on both sides, but in the respect of a client, there's a perception of what is going to take place. And in most cases, it's like, I'm going to hire you. I have a job description. Here you go. Go get it. Go get me some candidates, right? And I'm the person that's going, wait, let's hold the press. First of all, I need to get to know the organization. I need to get to know you. usually CEO or COO, whoever the hiring person is. And then we're going to walk through a process of getting to know all the history of where the company came from, where they are today, and where they're headed in the future. That is going to take a little bit of time on the front end before I could ever get to market. And they're like, why aren't we just going to market? And so it's this whole education process. And to your question about a particular situation, the other thing is, having done this for so long, over 2.5 decades, there are just things that I intrinsically know about organizations once I start asking questions. So I have a situation where I identified very quickly, and this has happened more than once, that the role in which the CEO thought that they wanted or needed for the organization was actually not the role that they needed to achieve their goals. So when I stated that, I was looked at like I had, red hair and maybe was even on fire and all kinds of weird colors coming from me, because it was such like, how could you possibly think you know more about my company than I do? The beautiful thing is, I guess, a combination of tenacity and maybe confidence that allowed me to get through the process with this particular CEO that I'm thinking of, led to a very successful placement of a chief operating officer who's been there for over 4 years now. And the CEO coming to me thereafter, like 2 years later, sitting me down and thanking me for staying in the ring with him and not giving up, even though it was like, wait a minute, who are you to tell me about my company and to think that you might know more about my company? And it's not about that. It's about listening and caring enough to really listen and understand what the needs are, and then the experience and background to be able to say, I know what that is.
I want to come back to the, you mentioned that COO is still there 4 years later. So we're going to come back to that. Don't let me forget.
Okay.
But first, would you say that your ability to do that comes from your experience as a CEO, as a COO, and is it part of the secret sauce? What is the secret sauce that clients get?
Well, I have to be honest. I've always said I'm not sure how a person could walk a mile in somebody else's shoes if they've never even walked a mile themselves. And so I do believe that having been a COO, having been a CEO, having seen what it takes to what begets success, definitely puts me in a different mindset, different awareness, different experience, but also allows me to look at my client and say, I get it. I know where you're sitting, or at least I know very closely where you might be sitting, close enough that I can help you get there. We can lock arms and get there together. And I think that it's that experience that helps me be successful, particularly in placing at that C-suite level.
Okay. Would you expand on your background as a COO? So I'm looking at my notes. How does that operational expertise inform your approach to executive placement?
Yeah, that's a great experience I had, because when I was able to transition into a COO, my first ever COO role, I came from being an executive search recruiter, if you will, from a company who the CEO hired me out of that. And in that organization, I had placed every person in that company. So it's a super interesting, I could have never imagined what that would be like. I also could never have imagined what kind of opposition I might face. And who are you? To wait a minute, you were okay on the outside, but now you're on the inside, and now you're a leader in our organization that I report to. Crazy, right? So definitely had to dive into everything, learn more about who I am as a leader, as well as who I could be to them, and help them see a different side of me, that I wasn't just this, recruiter. And so the good news of the story is we made that transition together. I'm not going to share with you that it was easy by any stretch of the imagination. However, in the end, we were all locking arms together, unified, and had really taken the organization from one level to another together. But it gave me so much insight to sitting in the seat, what it means to sit in that seat versus to be on the outside.
What are the key factors that contribute to successful executive placement? Are there specific traits or characteristics that you're looking for?
Something I've always said is that I think first and foremost, you genuinely have to love human beings. I think to be successful in this role, if you don't have a genuine love for human beings, you will probably not choose to take the time and energy to get to know them in the way that you need to be truly successful. And that is a very strong opinion that I have. The other thing is to be able to slow things down enough to learn what you need to know about both entities, the hiring entity as well as the individual, and what's most important to them. And that takes time, and that takes intention and intentionality, and not imposing my beliefs on my client or my candidate. So there are things, having done this for so long, you might imagine, there are things I can just see. I can literally just see where things can come together and how this could be a perfect match made in heaven, right? However, if they don't see it for themselves, I'm not going to go and do that job every day and have that show up for them. And so they have to be able to see it for themselves. So back to slowing things down, allowing them the space and opportunity to know what they need to know for themselves and not have me impose my influence upon it.
What has the ROI been for organizations that you've worked with over the course of years?
So when it comes to executive search or just hiring people at all, when you make a hiring decision, if that is not a successful decision, it will literally cost an organization, not only from a financial standpoint, 3 times or greater the annual salary of that person, but environmentally, the organization takes a hit too. Like, oh, so we weren't able to make a quality decision, or why didn't that person stick, right? So in working with somebody who has the ability to have a successful outcome, you're not only saving money, but you're saving your environmental aspects of your organization and what that might mean to both internal and external influences. And so, and not to mention, just think about it. When somebody comes to work for an organization, what do they tend to do for probably up to the first year if it's a successful placement? They're talking about that all the time. So now you have built-in PR for your company when you get this right.
Yeah. Let's talk about metrics a little bit more, because I know that you track certain things about your placements to ensure success.
Yes.
So
that's a fun story.
Yeah.
It's a real fun story because
it is, and tell it the way you told it to me.
Okay.
With all the papers.
Okay.
All over the floor.
I will tell that story. So years ago, meeting with a client for the first time ever, a CEO who, by the way, has an engineering background. It's an engineering firm. I made the bold statement that I had a 97% success rate. And he looked at me and he said, "Really? How did you get to that number? Give me the evidence of that." And all red-faced, not actually at that point in time in my career knowing where that number came from. I just kind of intrinsically knew that number. And interestingly enough, I am an accounting by trade way back when, and an accountant. And so you would think I might actually know where that number is, but I just kind of knew in my head. So because he challenged me so greatly and I got so embarrassed in that meeting, I went home, being the ex-accountant that I am, took out all my placements, went through everything. We're talking about years of placements. And what I found is that my actual success rate is 98.7, not 97. So that actually was a beautiful thing that he, provoked me to do. And the other thing that is important to know about that is the individuals stay in their role at least 2 years or greater. So typically what you find in the industry is that people will give you a 90-day or 1-year agreement that's the marker for success. I don't think that's success, because in that first year is when you're barely eking out some level of ROI from that new employee. It's in your second year where you're really getting the greatest ROI. And so I'm very proud to be able to exclaim that. And I'm very thankful for that CEO for provoking me to come to that number and understanding.
It was a good challenge.
It was a very good challenge.
Yeah. So what do you hope that people who watch this interview take away?
What I hope that they take away is that the mechanisms or machine that is available to them out there on how to do this process, that is just say, give it to me, let's go, and let's get a whole bunch of people that I just, throw at you in a random fashion on random days, that there actually is a process out there that is very successful that will promote alignment and give you the greatest quality individual with proven success than you might have even ever thought possible.
There's a couple of things that I know about you that maybe not everyone does, and one is your emphasis on left brain, right brain, creativity, paying attention to the entire person and which way they lean and how they process information. Where does that come from? You talked about your love for humans. When did you first notice it, and
Oh
when
my
did you lean
goodness.
into it?
I don't know if you know this story,
I don't think I do.
but it goes back to when I was a small child. I very quickly appreciated psychology. And so my father was taking a psychology courses at the time in college. Decided to go back to college for his, he was a police officer. And so he decided to get, greater knowledge about what it is he chose to have in his profession. And I started opening up these books at a very early age, tiny print about things that were, I'm sure, way over my head at that point in time of my age. And it just was something that I was fascinated with and, couldn't get enough of. So psychology and the way in which human beings make decisions is really important to me, because I just want to know like what makes them tick and what makes an individual feel edified and like that they really feel like that they're impacting the world in a positive way and what takes away from them. And so it's those things that I've tried to hone over the years, just by paying attention. But also, I have to admit that the CVI is a very significant component. It's a very significant tool in my tool chest that I use that helps me have a license to go a little deeper with my clients and candidates. Because we have this tool that we get to talk about and then learn more from about each individual. And it's with that I start being able to piece together the components that will beget future success.
Yeah. Would you talk a little bit more about the CVI? Because I've taken it. I've been through your process. Tina hired me, so or was a part of the process.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Tell people about the CVI. What's different? I know a lot of people have heard about DISC.
Yes.
A lot of people have heard, they might
Myers-Briggs.
know their Enneagram
Yep.
and they know their Myers-Briggs.
Absolutely.
What about CVI?
What I love, and I genuinely do love the CVI, is that it is so consumable. So we have these great tools. I am certified in the DISC, so I could also use that. However, you're going to find that I religiously use the CVI because it's so consumable. So I can sit down with you and within a 45 minutes or less, be able to help you understand all the context in these usually 15 to 17 pages as opposed to 35 to 40 to 60 pages. And you can put it into action like right away. People have put it into action with their in their marriage, in their dating relationships, with their kids. I've used it in my own, and it is just so enlightening to be able to appreciate the aspects of another human being rather than, why do you behave that way? Why are you so irritating? And it's just differences. So to be able to help them understand the differences is so great. But then think about an organization. So in an organization, birds of a feather flock together. True statement, see it every day. So if you don't know that you've hired everybody that looks exactly like you, how's that actually going to go for the wholeness and the whole success of an organization if you don't have the other parts, right? So to be able to share with them the CVI, help them understand what they have as compared to what they don't have, and then be able to deliver to them the things that they don't have so that we have that perfect balance between the two, between all parts, actually.
Could you break down the 4 quadrants of the core values index?
So the 4 quadrants are the builder, merchant, innovator, and banker. And it is essential in every organization to have all 4 parts. And if you can, to have them balanced so that you're not, lopsided. And to most importantly, know what they are so that you can then use it in your interview process as well. I find that when people take the CVI, so in my, the candidates and the people that I get to spend time with, when they learn about their greatest attributes and then they start focusing on those, you're going to find a human being that has a greater enjoyment of life, a greater enjoyment of their career, a greater appreciation for relationships. It's such a different thing to know thyself. So powerful.
Would you say that helping people understand themselves through the CBI helps them take more ownership in their roles?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. What I find in the CBI that causes me to, use it so religiously is because it allows people to, in knowing thyself, it empowers them. It empowers them to know who they are, but then also to see and understand the audience in front of them, their coworkers, their bosses. In some cases, they'll be like, I have no idea why this person continues to plague me with these questions. Well, if they understand what kind of attributes want or need answers to those questions, then it doesn't become annoying, and they have a respect for it. It's like the coolest thing. It's like this whole light bulb and this whole world opens up when they understand themselves and then are able to, because the CVI is so consumable, they can start figuring out very quickly, this person's a banker, or this person's a builder, whatever, this person that just jumps without having all the facts. That's crazy. And yet they can do it and be successful. Oh, that's a builder, right? And so it's this respect and appreciation and kind of enlightenment towards what's possible versus why is this like oil and, water, or oil and vinegar together, but it's finding that common balance.
Right. So with what's going on in the economy right now and shifts that we're finding in the business landscape, what would your advice be to executives who find themselves looking for maybe their first new role in a long time?
Yeah. So I actually started a practice all around this because years ago, 2008, 2009, a lot of that happened. And yes, it's happening again. We're getting, downsizing and all kinds of variables in the economic cycle today. And so one of the things that I continue to find astounding today is those professionals out there that are not on LinkedIn. That just is shocking to me. So first and foremost, get yourself on LinkedIn and create a professional profile. Now, the next obstacle is, well, what does a professional profile look like? Fortunately, there's a lot out there. I mean, definitely that's something that I do in my practice and helping guide people through that process. But first and foremost, get a really good picture, not one with your buddy, at, some, bachelor party, but
I'm only smirking because I've seen it.
yeah. So, and make sure that they can see your eyes in your face because, when they say that your eyes are the center to your soul, it's true. People are looking for a connection and it's even online. So make sure you have a great picture. Make sure you have a great profile. If you are uncomfortable with how to do that, find professionals out there that can do that. That's something we can certainly help you with at OneAccord. But get out there, because if you're not out there, you're unseen. You're part of the unseen, segment of the marketplace, and that's not great. And make sure that your resume and what you put on your LinkedIn profile isn't too verbose. We don't need to know everything you've done since the beginning of time. It's what have you done that is the most impactful? What are you most proud of? And what do you want to do again? Because some of the things that you've done before in your career, you may not ever want to do again. So why are you even noting it? And so make sure it's easily consumable, easy to read, easy to see ROIs that you have identified in companies, success factors, and get it out there. And then start connecting with other people, businesses, following, notable people that are important to you or your career. There's plenty to be done there, but get online.
So when you're teaching your teenage kid how to interview for their first job, there's the basics that you go over of be presentable, kind of how to speak, don't be chewing gum, don't pick your nose. What is that process of coaching for an interview like for candidates at the executive level? What types of things are you going over with them?
So it might be shocking for you to hear that I actually do go through that pretty extensively. We, here in the Northwest, we've some people have embraced this really relaxed attire. And even when we were in the .com hype, still and yet then, it was not appropriate to show up in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. Even though my client, the CEO on the other side, would absolutely be wearing a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. When you are presenting yourself, the best side of yourself, you've got one shot at it. You've got nanoseconds to make that presentation. And I'm not saying that you have to wear in, a suit and tie. That particularly, know your environment, know the climate. But it is not, I don't care what interview you're going to, I cannot recommend wearing a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. So dress for success is absolutely still alive today. The other thing is do your research. Don't just show up, and expect the interviewer to tell you everything about the company. Do your research, show that you cared enough about the entity that you're about to interview with. Find the people. LinkedIn, again, is a very great resource, but the internet itself is a great resource. You can probably find out everything you need to know about the company and the people in it. Find out, take notice of it, make some notes about some highlights that really stood out to you, that was, kind of key to you, that intrigued you, and know what you want. So walk in knowing what you want the outcome to be. What would they want to hear? What should they hear about you? What should they know about you? What's relevant to the position and the opportunity? If you don't have the exact skill set for the opportunity, what do you have that you could share that would be relevant to a translation on, oh, he or she's figured it out before, so they might be able to do it again. So take some time, invest in the process, and let them know when you are getting ready to stand up and leave from the interview that you're interested or not. Don't leave just going, great, thanks, have a nice day.
I feel like a lot of people go into interviews kind of with the mindset of they're so hyper-focused on not saying anything wrong that they don't really contribute much to the process. They're waiting to be asked a question.
I do so much coaching on this. Yeah.
They have a polished answer that they're going to put forward.
So true. So true. And that's not what the client's looking for. I mean, the prospective employer, they're looking for, who are you? Who are you? I would say that in today's environment, you might be shocked to know that fit will supersede experience, probably to the level of 3-to-1. People really want to know that they would enjoy working with you, and they feel that they could work with you, that they could have equal respect, and that they might have something to gain from you as much as you might have something to gain from them. But it's about the relationship. Massive, massive relationship right now.
And you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the resume portion. That was news to me. I'll just go ahead and I'll be the guy that says, I'm the one that puts everything on, I don't have a resume. Okay. But I would be the guy that was putting everything, because I would approach that more like a checklist of, okay, like, I started shoveling sheep poop when I was 12. That was the first thing that I got a paycheck for. And I'm going to tell you everything that has happened since.
Yeah. And first of all, nobody's going to read that entire thing. Secondly, they might not care either, which is super harsh to say, but true. And thirdly, we're in a world today where it's give it to me now. That is our world today. So if you don't get succinct with how you're articulating who you are and what you have to offer, it'll just be passed by.
Tina, thank you so much for being here. And just to remind everybody who you are and what you do, CEO of the Schaaf Group, 15-year partner with OneAccord, and tremendous experience in operations and strategy and consulting.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. To get in touch with me, feel free to go to oneaccord.co, or you can email me directly, tina@oneaccord.co.
All right. Thanks, Tina.
Thank you.